You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
And today, on this Training Thursday edition, we are going to go over my favorite metabolic exercise of all time. Even to this day, it's been, I think I did the video like somewhere around 8 or 9 or 10 years ago. And I'm actually going to link up the video, so it'll be pretty funny. It'll be me from like 6 years ago or 7 years ago. I still am, believe it or not, the health and fitness correspondent for Diet.com. And I shoot a lot of their videos. We shoot every month. And it's just free, great content for people on how we get clients results from exercise. And I think I was asked, it literally had to be a decade ago, and what I said was there's still one exercise, believe it or not, that's head and shoulders above everything else. And they couldn't believe that because there's obviously so many great exercises, right? And there's just so much debate back and forth. Well, I said, I want you to look at it this way. If you can work your entire body all at once, that's going to give you the most metabolic burn, right? Because you get the metabolic boost, the metabolic burn from using a larger amount of muscle tissue. For example, a squat is going to be much more metabolic than sitting on a machine and doing a leg extension, where you're basically sitting down and you just extend your leg up and down. That's a leg extension. It works mainly your quadricep muscles, the muscles on top of your thighs. Okay, so now could you use that for some very specific reason? Sure, but it's not a great exercise. It loads up the knee joint and it puts too much pressure literally on one joint. That's why it's a single joint exercise. It's an open chain exercise. Not a great exercise. So there are exercises that work more muscle tissue than just your quadricep, right? So you want the ones that force you to stabilize and force you to use more than one muscle group, unlike just your quadriceps. So when you were doing a squat, you were squatting down. This isn't the best one of all time, but I want to give you an example. So compared to a leg extension from a squat, when you're squatting down, you're literally stabilizing from the ground up. So you're working all the muscles in your feet, your ankle, your calves, your quadriceps, your glutes, your hamstrings, and then your core has to work. So you're getting all of that. So you see how that's much more metabolic than any machine where you sit down at the gym. So keep that in mind. Now you say, okay, well, how could we, and that's why your best leg exercise that you could possibly do really is a squat. Now, you could debate and you could say, well, it could be a deadlift, it could be something like that. And I'm not going to debate that with you. If you're doing both, then, do both. They're both fantastic exercises. But the squat really is kind of like the king of the lower body exercises. Now, if you look up my exercise on Learn How to Squat, you'll see that everyone can squat. They really can. I work with complete knee replacement based patients and really everyone in between. They just haven't learned how to squat and their knees aren't in the proper biomechanical alignment, and we help just fix that. But most people can. You just have to learn how to sit back on your hips and your glutes instead of flexing your knees forward. All right, but now how can we make the squat now more metabolic? Like, how can we get a better metabolic exercise than that? Well, the only way we could do it is if we added the upper body in with it at the same time. So now if we add an exercise, we can both squat and use your upper body. Now you're using all the muscles in your upper body and all the muscles in your lower body. And how do we do that? Well, it's an exercise called a squat press. So what you're doing is literally a shoulder press. You're holding 2 dumbbells or 2 kettlebells or cables or a sandbag, anything you want. You can use bands at home, literally anything you want. And what you're doing is you're squatting down and holding the weights around your shoulders, okay? So right above your shoulders with your hands. And then as you stand back up out of the squat, you're going to press over your head with the 2 cable handles, with the bands, with the kettlebells, with the dumbbells, whatever you want to use. And then you just worked your legs and your upper body at once, your shoulders, your anterior deltoids, all of those muscles. But you also worked your core because you're loading up your spine. Basically, the weights are on top of your spine. That's pushing down on your spine. That's not a bad thing because your abs, your lower back, your obliques, everything has to work to stabilize the spine, all right? And that alone, unlike doing a crunch, works your abs, works the whole transverse abdominis, works all of those muscles. You don't need to know all these fancy terms. I'm trying not to use too many of them. But what you're doing is you're literally working every muscle in your body. We use this with all of our clients, but obviously at different varying levels. It might be on one leg. You can get as advanced as you want, right? But really, you just need to put a good weight on your shoulders that you use for a shoulder press. Combine a squat with it, keeping your chest up, eyes looking forward, sitting back in your hips, sitting back on your heels. This alone could literally be an entire workout if you were short on time. You would do like 4 sets of 10, 3 sets of 15. However you want to do it, you would get an amazing workout just from this alone after just obviously doing a few little warm-up exercises. I can't recommend the exercise enough. You could say, well, I can't press over my shoulders because I have shoulder-based injuries. Try bringing your elbows in front of you, pointed straight ahead, and pressing them what's called a parallel or neutral grip. That's typically, most people are able to do that even with rotator cuff-based issues. Of course, if you do have frozen shoulder or you have inflammation-based issues, that should be a temporary thing. You should be obviously working on that, fixing that, working with a health practitioner, and then you can go into this exercise. Now, if you're not able to, well, just use your own body weight, right? Squat down with your own body weight, press over your head with your own arms, and you can just use your own range of motion. Remember, our job here as people who are trying to do the best thing we can for our body and get in our best shape and our best health is to come up with more solutions than excuses, right? So when someone says they can't, I say, okay, well, what can we do? That's the important thing. What can you do? And I know that you can sit down onto a bench and stand back up. Most people can do that. 99.9% of people can sit down on a chair and stand back up. Well, that's your squat, right? You can do that. You can do that 5 times, 6 times. Just progress. If you do 5 times today, great. Next week, do 6 reps. The next week after that, 7, and then 8, and then 9, and then get to 10. You can do that, just your own body weight. Sit down, stand back up. That's a squat. You're doing great. Now, put your hands on your shoulders, press up in the air as you stand up. That's your squat press. Eventually, you'll be able to add some light weights. So again, everyone can do this. I firmly believe that. I've been doing it for 20 years now. I've seen it work, and it is an amazing way to boost your metabolism. So I don't want you to take this exercise and do it every single day, all right? Because that's obviously not balanced. But add it to your program once a week. Why not? It's an amazing exercise. You can do it in a million different ways. Maybe not a million, but at least 1,000. And you'll find all these great ways of doing it. What I'll do is I'll link up the video. Hopefully I can find it now that I'm promising it. If not, I will shoot another one if I have to, and I'll eventually send that out in an email. Make sure you are on my email list so that you get all these video tips as well. So, as I said, what I recommend is just starting out wherever you are right now, but trying to add this exercise in once per week. You do that, even at the end of the exercise, believe it or not, you're going to feel like you just did cardio, because a true metabolic exercise is going to make you feel like you're huffing and puffing at the end of it, like you just did a sprint. So this, in effect, is our interval-based training, because at the end of 10, 12, or 15 repetitions, with a heavy enough weight where you feel like you couldn't do 1 or 2 more, that's the right weight for you. Your heart rate's pounding, your body has to recover from that, and you obviously got that great overall full body burn. So try that exercise out and let me know how you did. I'd love to hear how that exercise went for you and what other ones you're using in your own program. Thank you again for tuning into another Cabral Concept.
I want to sincerely thank you for your support of this podcast. I couldn't do it without you, and I mean that. I truly do. I also want to make sure you knew that we now have multiple ways for you to find your answers to the most difficult health, wellness, weight loss, and anti-aging questions. You can find podcast-specific topics like thyroid, adrenal, hormones, sleep, digestion, Ayurveda, and many more at stevencabral.com/podcasts that will then link you to your favorite Apple, Spotify, and other podcast players. Plus, all new podcasts and weekly exclusive video content is being added to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Stephen Cabral. And that's Stephen with a PH. Head on over and subscribe so that you don't miss any of the exclusive content. Lastly, if you've ever found any of my podcasts or books to be helpful, I would really appreciate it if you could leave a review on iTunes or your favorite media player for the podcast. Rating and subscribing to the YouTube and podcast allow me to reach more and more people and help spread my mission of healing throughout the world. Thank you again for being a part of this movement.